Fellow Toastmasters, and no guests. It's interesting that Jay didn't know how to pronounce the name of Juris Kursulis. That's common because many members in this club never knew him, but they probably heard the name before. And that's common in the district. Last week I was talking to Shelley Gabriel. Shelley is helping with the conference. Her responsibility is to make sure the awards are ready for the Juris Kursulis award presentation. And she said to me, I've heard the name before, but I don't know anything about that guy. What can I do? And so what I did is I gave her a book. The title of the book is Through the Gates of Hell to Freedom. It was written by Juris Kursulis, who was a member of this club. It was self-published, and Juris used to sell these books at various district events until they were sold out. And I bought my copy, and so I loaned it to Shelley so that she'll know. And I'm giving this speech so that you will know the lore of Voice of Many Toastmasters as well as the entire state of Arizona Toastmasters, the lore about Juris. So what about Juris? Juris was born in 1932 in a little country known as Latvia. The map there shows that on one side is the Baltic Sea, which is very cold in the winter. The other side is Russia. When Juris was born, Russia was known as the Soviet Union. Juris lived on a farm. His father was a member of the Home Guard, and they had a happy life until that special day in 1940. Russian tanks rolled into the country of Latvia. The president disappeared and was never heard from again. They had a new leader now. And Juris learned about that very fast because he was in school and he had a new responsibility every morning when he arrived at school. And that was, he saluted the picture of their new leader. Today we know him as Joseph Stalin. He was their new leader, and suddenly things changed. Not only did their government change, even the police within the capital city changed. You see, as with all police, they kept a jail. And as soon as the Russians took over, the inmates started running the jail and the police were put inside the jail. And they started looking for people who had served in the Home Guard. Those people were targeted. And they knew about it. Juris's father and his brother actually had to go hide. They went hiding in a forest. And every day, Juris would go to school, and his teacher would have him salute this picture, and then he'd ask him, you know where your father is, tell me. And Juris always denied knowing. That went on for a year until they were rescued. That's when Germany invaded. And the Nazis came in, and things changed back a little bit. The inmates were once more put in the jail, and the police were taken outside the jail once again. But it was at that time that Juris's family found out that they had been on a death list set by the Russians, the communists. And so they knew if the Russians ever came back, their lives were in jeopardy. And sure enough, the Russians did come back in 1944. And the family decided it wasn't safe to stay there, so they, oh, by the way, during all this time, he had a new picture to salute every morning. Very new leader. In 1944, they took a run for it. And they weren't going to go east. That's where the Russians were. So they went west. They decided to try and go as far west as they could to meet up with the American army. But when they were in Poland at a railway station, they were bombed by the Allied Air Force. And they were separated. Juris was by himself. And that he was a tall 12-year-old at that time and was forced to join the German army. he was sent to the Russian front, where he managed to desert and get away and headed west until finally he was able to reunite with his family. At the end of the war, there was good news again. They were allowed to come to America. Freedom at last. And so Juris managed to go back to school in America and then went to serve his country in the United States Air Force. A more patriotic man you will never know. Something about living under that kind of oppression makes you really appreciate the freedom in this country. When I told you the story about how he met Betty, his wife, at a USO dance, and they remained married until they both passed away. But that's how and when Betty married him, she brought along with her 2 daughters, Carolyn and Kathy. And to this day, at the spring conference every year, Kathy is there at the Saturday luncheon for the presentation of the Juris Kursulis Award for who brings the most spirit to the conference. Juris became a Toastmaster, and he started a newsletter called The Squeak. Now, the writing's been changed over the years, but that drawing there was hand-drawn by Juris. He was a member of this club, and he loved it. And he was also a member of another club, which he shared with Nancy Starr Cassidy, now a past international director, and on his left, is Rose Swearingen, past district governor and past regional advisor. That's his vest. Juris loved to go to conferences and international conventions. And every time he did, he got some new bling to put on his vest. And so that is the symbol of the Juris Award, even today. And it will be awarded at the next conference on May 17th, May 18th. So that's the memory of Juris. He was a larger-than-life man with a larger-than-life story. He made a big impact on this club, yes, and even State of District 3 Toastmasters in Arizona. And now you know the lore of Juris Kursulis. Mr. Toastmaster.